Life has a happy ending. Every life, if you believe in reincarnation, also has a happy ending. If during the living of the life we are awake, the universe is set up in such a way that we should be self-adjusting along the way until we are in tune with the reality of life, being the expression of creation, the reality of life, moving with that, in tune with that, aligned with the reality of life, which is the expression of creation. But we have to be awake in the process of living. What I mean by being awake in the process of living, we need to be involved in some type of spiritual practice so that we can be mindful of that subtle presence that would speak to anyone who is mindful. It is only when we are not mindful, when we are not involved in spiritual practice, when we are simply adrift in the world, still attempting to collect this little treasure, this little pleasure, this little that, this little this, and being unmindful in the collecting of that. There's nothing wrong in pursuing that if you're mindful, because you're mindful and you're aware, you'll begin to recognize what is and what is not valuable. So that at some place in our adjustments along the way, we adjust totally to the divine essence of life. And we are one with it. So that we are no longer holding any type of grievance against creation. Because creation, when we get to that place of wakefulness, will appear to us then to be perfect. So, life has a happy ending. Supposedly, in the process of living, we do become disenchanted, even though we're not mindful yet. We do become disenchanted with the changing tides of circumstances that rail against us now, are for us for a little while, and then again we're worried, and then again we're meeting some conflict, some concern. And we tire of that. Or we should. We should tire of that. But of course, as the statement from the Master about seeking first the consciousness of God is so difficult that we don't seek first the consciousness in any situation. That's being unmindful totally. But again, we should become disenchanted, and if we don't, we wind up like the rich man that says to the Master of Life, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" And he says to him, "You know the law, follow it completely, And he says, well, I do. He said, but one thing is still missing. And he said to the rich man, sell all that you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Well, of course, the rich man went away and couldn't do that. Because you see, there is a loss in the mind toward what is truly valuable. In the illusion of having enough financial acumen to buy your way around the difficult conditions and circumstances, that you should be able to buy your way around all those difficulties and be at least at peace, somewhat at peace. So that's the illusion of having enough money. And of course, people are driven to the most extreme places in their quest for more money. It's amazing to watch and to read about it in the papers. What happens to a mind that really is addicted to the idea that money will eventually make that person free? I'm going to throw a curve at you right now. Do you believe that what I'm saying to you on these Wednesday nights is true? Or are you kind of just still curious? Do you think that what I'm saying to you, I got back in a ministerial school where they taught us how to say these different things and promote these different principles so that people would come along and they'll sit in your seats, you'll take offerings, you'll make a good living doing that? Do you believe that at any point in my ministry has been the objective? Because it means if you do that, it means you're still cynical. You still believe in the world. You still don't, or maybe you haven't had enough experiences yet to live even in an expanded moment, one expanded moment of blessedness. Do you know that is our destiny? In other words, when I say to you, and it's not from any academic collection of ideas and principles and truth, it's from a lifetime of doing what I'm sharing with you to do, because my lifetime has brought me to a place where I see the magnificence in every moment. I live in the peace of the ever-present, living God. And so that's the only thing that is worth truly living for. And so when we talk about these things at whatever services we're at, when you're talking about them, you're talking about opening the mind to see clearly how the mind is distracted and taken away from its divinity. You see, we're trying to get to a place that the Course in Miracles refers to as the real world. The real world. Think about that. When it talks about the real world, it talks about that which is not the real world. The world of illusion and illusions. The world of distractions and distractions, where human beings are forever attempting to find a way to be free of fear, free of worry, free of death. Trying to find that, but always looking outside to try to manipulate figure out, do something that's going to make those conditions and circumstances out there, listen to this because it's never going to go away, trying to make conditions and circumstances out there finally adjust according to your personal desires and perceptions and wants. That's not the way to find freedom. And I can testify to that on a worldly level. I have, way back when in my life, I've rubbed shoulders with multimillionaires. And for the most part, I didn't know very many of them that well. I know one or two. They had no peace with all their money. In fact, there were a couple of them that, if they wanted to, they'd have a hard time spending all their money in one lifetime. And they had no peace. They had a lot of medications and stuff that they had on their desks that they took periodically to take care of the situations they had going on in their guts. So I use that as an example. Seek first the consciousness of God that is within you. And all these things that you have desired will be yours as well. And so when you finally get to that place where you've done enough of the spiritual practice and had enough of these experiences along the way, where you watched what could have been and should have been a negative response or experience, and it's transformed because your mind was changed. Not because you were able to change them, but because you and your practice had taken you to the place where you realize that your intention, that you feed your mind, determines how you perceive everything. The intention that you were born into, grown up with, and conditioned to believe in by unenlightened parents, peers, teachers, whoever, fed you the idea of the world. And so your intention given to your mind was not yours from the beginning, it was theirs. And along the way you took it in and accepted it, and it became your intention to pursue life in a certain way. But if the disenchantment hasn't arrived yet in your life, so that you are not yet practicing everyday meditation and affirmative introspection, if you're not there yet, every day doing that, it's because you're still holding out hope for something that can never happen for you. And that's okay for a while, but just be awake in the process. Gee, I'm holding out hope for this and that, and if it goes this way, I'll really be happy. But will it stay that way? And will it continue that way? And can I be happy that way? And then if you're awake and you see that it doesn't play out, you say, you know, there may be something to this whole idea of changing my own being. First and foremost, aligning myself with the refined intelligence of God that speaks to me about living with a different intention. Living to love my neighbor as myself. Living to give when required in every situation regardless. No resistance, no fighting. I shouldn't have to do this. No more of that. Just drop it, just for this minute. 1 hour, give, do it. Take that step away from the world and see if the divine, refined intelligence doesn't reward you by what? The very next step you take, there's going to be an old, tattered canvas bag filled with $40,000. I swear to you, that's the way it happens. Really? Come on. Do you believe what I just said? Please, don't be that locked into the world. What happens for you when you give in that moment that you're required to give is that you feel blessed. The Spirit in you is saying, well done. You've been awake enough to know that this is your purpose and your intention, to be one with that which is appropriate and valuable. So, the point, be awake in your living. If you're not at that place yet where you have had enough experiences in the refined awareness by letting go of self, imagine that, letting go of self and its requirements, its demands in a moment, and serving the moment in some way that was required of you, some interruption in the flow of your personal desires, and you paused and you let it happen. And in that moment you became one with God and knew the blessedness of it. And then decided, I'd like to have more of that. And so you got more serious about your spiritual practice and being awake in the spiritual practice, doing your meditation every day and carrying your meditation with you into life. And then, with enough of that, you begin to see, without any focus necessary, no focus necessary, you, if you have practiced enough, will have let go of the illusionary promptings of the driven, ego-centered self. You have let it go. I'll live without it for a while. I'll live without it for a while. And when you're willing to live without it for a while, more and more, the promptings of Spirit are with you, moving you, blessing you, loving you, healing you, and proving to you there is only one power, one presence in all the universe, and that is the benevolent Creator, who Jesus referred to as our Father. So I tell you, you wind up going through life and recognizing so many acts of beauty. Just wherever you are, wherever you go, so many things. I'm doing a series at 8:30 in the morning on life after death. It's actually life before, during, and after death. And these accounts that people give about dying and finding themselves before this brilliant light that is exuding love, and all their pain is gone. And the amazing thing about it is that way over 90% of these accounts have taken place multi-thousands of them, in countries and cultures throughout the world, all speaking approximately the same thing. There's this brilliant light that is filled with love. And then some of them see deceased relatives, and some of them see masters from different religious places that they worshipped or followed. And they feel a blessing that they never knew in life. And quite often they come back healed when they decide to return. They come back and they're completely healed. If you ever want testimony to, look it up on the internet, some of these life after death experiences. And, well, you can scoff at it, but clinical science today is beginning to join the research, because too many people now have been dead in front of them, and for long periods of time, and then had come back. One came back on a table where, having been dead for 3 days, they were going to perform an autopsy. That'll shake you up a little bit. But you see, all of that points to the benevolence of a universe. That there is this presence, this omnipresence that we call God. I'm speaking a little longer tonight because Norma's not with me. We have grandchildren we're watching this week, while Cintisha's taking a week to go to the village with Mike and Shad and Erina. They're going to Unity Village for the conference. And we have the children. We have a couple of dogs. Being mindful, being awake in the process of living, and hardly believing when we start this journey that we could actually love one another fully and completely, unconditionally. That we could love another as we love ourselves, which is the command by the Master of Life. And then, in doing that, you suddenly start seeing the most beautiful things taking place in people's lives. Things that they do that maybe we never noticed before. But they are so beautiful. And they're just doing them. Maybe they've arrived. Maybe their spiritual practice is complete. Or maybe, as I sometimes suspected, some people that have made the journey, completed the fulfillment of their destiny as divine beings, have returned to take on a body and live from the very beginning of their lives in a place of blessedness, peace, and love. So tonight, I don't even have a prayer list tonight. It's possible that I'm so unprepared for this service that I will be fired tomorrow. So, what?
I believe the prayer list is in the prayer box.
Okay. See, this is the whole thing. By saying I might be fired tomorrow, You're going to hang on every word I say tonight. It's not there. It's okay, Lawrence. It's fine. I've got another way. I know how to pray without a list. Did you know that?
I would think.
In preparation for that, we will get away from the words and just relax the words. Relax what Eckhart Tolle calls the incessant thinking. Thinking, thinking, thinking. All that thinking is about how to claim more advantages, more advantages, more advantages. So if you just relax the thinking and not necessarily try to shut it off, but just to let it pass by. If it's there, it's there. But just putting our attention on feeling okay. Because no matter where you are in consciousness, you are okay. You see, the universe has given us permission to be wherever we are because our salvation has no middleman. It's up to each one of us to finally decide to awaken and be more present in the guiding joy and peace of God. So we can accept that at any place, no matter what your day has been like. Can you imagine that? The I am of you, the spiritual essential core of each and every one of us is God. So at any place where we start to relax the wanting, the grasping, the needing, the fearing, at any point where we say, oh, no, I'm not going to do that for a while, just let me sit still here and rest in the present moment, in the okayness of God. And you see how beautiful it is to just choose peace. Let the world go by. Let the thoughts go by. Right now, just choose peace. And do that while we're listening to this music. Let yourself flow with the peace of the presence. I hope you find some music, Steve. Good. this evening, we will practice praying from God. People often ask me, what is the difference between praying to God and praying from God? The fact is, God doesn't care which one you're embracing. But to pray from God is to feel completely okay in the moment, knowing that you are beloved and given permission to choose to align your consciousness with the guiding love of the universe. So we have that freedom in every moment to choose to align my consciousness with the guiding love of the universe. Whenever I do that, and I start to feel that presence and know the peace of it, then if I bring to mind any other person that has appeared to me to be in need of healing, I merely hold them in that peace, that feeling, that guiding love. Because all minds are in communication. So it doesn't require a lot of words or trying to get the universal creator to intercede. It's still choice, and it's still inspiration. So now, as you allow yourself to be one with God, which is to know that you are beloved, just as you are, where you are, living the life you are living. Just accept that now in this moment. Let it be so in this moment. And now if there is any person or persons that you were aware that are in need of healing of some kind, any kind, just hold them in this feeling with you. Recognize that they, in a moment, can be transformed and feel the oneness and the peace and feel the healing. Let us take a moment to feel this blessed truth of the presence of God, filling the consciousness of humanity so totally that the planet itself is drawn back into balance, healing, and beauty. As we pray, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And God is love. To this we say, Amen.